Hey guys, I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome back to another video, and today I want to talk about Ahsoka. Now, I did a video talking about the first two episodes of this TV series, and I actually thought it was actually pretty good. I felt there was actually some elements of a good Star Wars show coming together, and I felt it was very climactic, and I thought potentially this could be maybe a good show. Not anything special, but maybe a good show for the Star Wars franchise. So now the series is over. Now I can finally talk about this show in its detail. So for the first two episodes, for it being good, has it kind of lived up to the expectations? And truthfully, the answer to that is no. I don't really think there's anything really I could say that it's a bad show. I think this is where I feel like it sits on this sort of element of being pretty mid. I think it does some things in a good way, but a lot of it I think just kind of falls flat the more episodes you watch, and I think like some parts of the series feels a little bit misplaced. But I don't think there's anything I could sort of seriously credit this movie for in many ways, but at the same time I can't really credit anything that is just anything that I could discredit either. So I think this is a very mid show at best, really. Now, some of the things I do want to talk about with this show is I do think some of the action sequences were actually good for once. I actually think you actually watch a Star Wars series where they actually have some good moments with action sequences, with especially a lot of lightsaber fights. I think some of the ones that really stood out to me, I mean, I don't want to kind of get into spoilers, but it's going to be minor maybe. But I do like some of the action sequences, especially with Ahsoka and also Baylan Skoll, who is played by Ray Stevenson. Rest in peace. He was actually really good in this series, and I think it was certainly a sad way to see his legacy as an actor come to an end after this show. But he definitely lived a good legacy as an actor, and I think this show did kind of pay a good tribute to him, and that was a good thing to see. But anyways, the action sequences were actually really good, and I think it definitely sort of embarks some elements of a Star Wars film in a lot of ways, and I think that was kind of some of the things that I could really appreciate for. I think the story in this series, or the plot, is, I think it had a good plot, but I think it really just went off into certain tangents, really. So it's really strange what the real story objective is. Is it based to find the key to find General Admiral Thrawn, or to find Ezra? Get Ezra back to his home. I don't really have any idea what the story is trying to accomplish with this series, but I think really the elements of some of the aspects I could talk about with this show do fall in a decent way, but I think the problem is that it doesn't really sort of build up any sort of subplots or any sort of character story embarkments that you could really think of. So most of the dialogue kind of spills out, but it doesn't really have any sort of objective or really any sense of nuance to understand what would really happen in the series. It kind of plays out this really expected homogenized feel that we've seen in a lot of series or other content before, and I think that's kind of some of the things that really lack about this show. It kind of lacks the sense of trying to sort of come up with some good writing with the characters, or try and pace the episodes in a way that can really try and build some sort of climax as well, which I think it kind of failed to do. So I think a lot of ways this show kind of sits pretty flat, and it doesn't really, build any sense of expectations or excitement really as each episode goes on. But yeah, one more thing I want to add as well is that I do felt the last episode was pretty lackluster. I do feel like there's not really so much, great writing with the way they sort of, portray the characters, and most of their acting felt pretty stiff. Again, they do have moments as well where some action sequences were good, but that's kind of the only real thing I could really look at. And I didn't really kind of like the way that it kind of ended with this sort of cliffhanger in some sense. I didn't know if it was like a cliffhanger or really is that was just how it ended. But it wasn't really something that I really felt I was really pleased about. It was just a very in my sense the ending was pretty abrupt. But I think really with this show is just it focuses on things that maybe some Star Wars fans might like, but I think for a lot of people, I think this could still be a pass for a lot of people. But I think it does some things better than I've seen from potentially other Star Wars series, but I don't think it's enough to really sort of warrant any sort of acclaim at all. So overall, if I have to rate Ahsoka, I think at best I'm gonna have to give it a 6 out of 10. I think it's fine for what it is. I think some of the action is very good. I think some of the story notes, even though they're not consistent or well written at best, I think they do kind of focus on a very simple premise as well. I think some acting, especially from Rosario Dawson or even Ray Stevenson, I think were really, really good. But yeah, I mean, most of the characters felt pretty stiff. There was really lack of development with the story in some areas, and I think some of the writing and the dialogue weren't really that great, to be brutally honest with you. So yeah, that's my review for Ahsoka, and yeah, thanks for watching, and see you later.